a US military soldier who, after dying, was completely converted into a robot, and any injury to his body would heal immediately. At the beginning of this story, we are shown many US military soldiers who are going somewhere with their team, where terrorists had captured people. In that same team, there is a brave soldier named Ray who, without following any protocol, went inside. Ray saw that a terrorist had pointed a gun at a hostage. Ray calmly talks to the terrorist, asking what he wants. The terrorist then reveals that he wants a helicopter to escape. Ray immediately gets an idea and tells the terrorist that he needs to use the telephone for that. As the terrorist reaches for the telephone, Ray seizes the golden opportunity and shoots the terrorist, riddling him with bullets, saving the hostage's life. Ray's team also succeeds in eliminating the remaining terrorists, and after their mission is successfully completed, they head towards the military air force. Ray tells his team members that no task is small, and sometimes we have to make decisions that can save others' lives. Now, Ray is very happy to meet his beautiful wife after such a long time. Ray takes several months of leave and goes to Italy with his wife. They are having a lot of fun together because, due to his military duties, Ray couldn't spend much time with his wife. But whenever he met her, he took her to different countries. However, Ray had no idea that roaming around without protection was not free from danger, and from today, his whole life was about to change. Suddenly, Ray and his wife are kidnapped by some terrorists who were probably part of the same terrorist group that Ray had eliminated. The leader of those terrorists was named Martin X, who was continuously trying to extract information from Ray. Ray clearly told him that even if they killed him, he would not divulge the information. However, Martin had another plan. Before killing Ray, he killed Ray's wife. Ray, devastated and shouting in grief, lost the only person he had in his life who supported him. Now, with a bullet in her head, his wife was dead. Filled with immense rage, Ray told Martin and his men that if he escaped, no one would be able to stop him from killing them all. But Martin's men shot Ray too, making it seem like everything was over. However, this was just the beginning of a new future. After many days, Ray opened his eyes and noticed he was in a laboratory with many wires attached to his body. Ray tried hard to get up, but he could barely move. Just then, a girl named Kathy arrived and helped him. Kathy told Ray that he had recovered in a very short time, but he still needed to rest. Soon, a scientist named Dr. Hardy came and explained to Ray that he was inside Rising Spirit Technology, a secret government organization that conducted robotic experiments on various subjects. Dr. Hardy then revealed to Ray that he had died, but the government had given his body to them for experimentation. Luckily, the experiment was successfully completed, and Ray was alive again, meaning their years of experiments had finally paid off. They had been trying this for years but had not achieved the required results until now. Seeing Ray fully recovered, all the scientists were astonished. Ray was now completely a robot from the inside. Dr. Hardy continued to explain everything to Ray in his laboratory. First, Dr. Hardy made a small cut on Ray's hand. Initially, Ray felt a bit of pain, but then he saw the cut on his hand healing by itself. It seemed like magic. Dr. Hardy then explained that there were tiny nanoparticles inside Ray's body. These nanoparticles made Ray so strong from within that all his wounds would heal in seconds. Moreover, his strength and stamina increased by 100%. However, there was one flaw in all of this. Ray had forgotten all the memories of his previous life. Ray didn't even know that he had a wife or that he used to be a soldier. But Dr. Hardy explained that he needed to forget the past and learn to accept and move forward with his new future. Dr. Hardy shared his own example. In his childhood, he used to be a very good tennis player, but due to cancer, he had to have one of his hands amputated, shattering his dream of becoming a tennis player. However, he didn't give up. When he started this secret organization, Dr. Hardy created a robotic hand for himself, which was much more powerful than a normal hand and could do things that a normal hand couldn't. Now, Dr. Hardy had a new future. He wanted to build such technology for government soldiers that no one would die and those who were injured could be repaired with robotic technology, increasing their efficiency and power by 100 times. Dr. Hardy then took Ray to those soldiers who were severely injured during the war. After applying this advanced robotic technology to their bodies, they were completely healed. For instance, a soldier named Jimmy had both his legs amputated, but after getting robotic legs, he could walk perfectly. Similarly, a soldier named Ben had lost his eyes in the war. But now, with a robotic camera attached to his eyes, Ben could not only see but also record everything. This means that using robotic technology not only fulfilled all their needs but also significantly increased their ability to work. After a night's sleep, Ray's abilities and powers had increased considerably. He couldn't control them well. He then started punching a long concrete pillar. Ray didn't feel any pain in his hand, but because he was punching so quickly, the pillar began to break. The nanoparticles were continuously healing any marks on Ray's hand, meaning Ray had gained all his superhuman powers. Ray then met Kathy, who told him that without memories, what's the point of living this life because memories are what make us human. While having a small drink with Kathy, Ray started having strange thoughts, and in these thoughts, he could literally see his wife's murder, brutally killed by some terrorists. Ray realized in those visions that it was Martin X's group that had killed him and his wife. Enraged, Ray slammed his hand on the table, terrifying Kathy. Ray's old memories had returned. He packed all his belongings and started to leave with the help of a car. Dr. Hardy was watching Ray through the camera but didn't know where he was going. Ray drove out of the laboratory, but suddenly he heard Dr. Hardy's voice asking where he was going. Ray didn't understand where Dr. Hardy's voice was coming from. Dr. Hardy then explained that the nanoparticles inside Ray provided wireless connectivity features, allowing him to track Ray's location anywhere. Ray told Dr. Hardy that someone had murdered his wife. And that's why I have to go and avenge all of this. Ray knew that Martin X and his terrorists had murdered his wife, so he immediately started heading towards their location. In the middle of the city, Martin X was sneaking around with his men. He had several soldiers in a car for protection, but as soon as their car entered a tunnel, the lights suddenly went out. A huge truck crashed directly into their car, killing many of Martin X's men. Ray then appeared, and he started killing Martin X's men relentlessly. Although the soldiers attacked Ray with guns, his wounds healed instantly due to the nanoparticles. Using his full strength, Ray killed all the soldiers in one go. Martin X was still inside the bulletproof car, so Ray fired at the car. The soldiers threw heavy bombs at Ray, but he recovered within seconds. Ray then grabbed a gun and killed not only the soldiers but also Martin X, taking his revenge. After avenging his wife's murder, Ray went to Kathy, who had signaled him to come to a certain location. Jimmy was also there to take Ray back to the laboratory. Upon returning to Rising Spirit Technology, various programs were run on Ray. First, Dr. Hardy's team deleted all of Ray's old memories. But a shocking revelation came to light. Dr. Hardy was not just erasing Ray's memories but implanting new ones. These were memories of events that had never happened to Ray. Kathy was a bit shocked to see why Dr. Hardy was doing this to Ray. Dr. Hardy's team had now implanted memories in Ray's mind where a terrorist named Barris had murdered his wife. And now, when Ray wakes up and all these memories come back to him, he will go directly to kill Barris. The truth behind all this was that Dr. Hardy was using Ray as a weapon. The visions of Martin X killing Ray's wife were implanted in Ray's mind by Dr. Hardy so that Ray would kill Martin X. Now it was Barris' turn. Dr. Hardy's team started the same process again. After waking Ray, they implanted visions in his mind that Barris had murdered his wife, prompting Ray to go after Barris. Dr. Hardy's team was constantly monitoring Ray, meaning they could use Ray to kill anyone. We are shown Barris' small headquarters, where a programmer named Nick, who worked for Barris, was located. Ray arrived there and started killing all of Barris' men one by one. Finally, he stood in front of Barris, pointing a gun at him. Barris, confused, asked Ray who he was. Ray demanded to know why Barris had killed his wife. Barris denied it, saying he didn't know Ray and had done no such thing. But in the next moment, Ray brutally killed Barris. As Ray was leaving, he suddenly collapsed. Nick picked him up and took him to his laboratory. Due to the radiation from the EMP bomb, Dr. Hardy's team couldn't detect Ray. After a while, when Ray regained consciousness, he tried to attack Nick. But Nick told him that he wasn't an enemy and had something very important to tell him. Nick had scanned Ray's entire body and discovered that all the memories implanted in Ray's mind were entirely artificial. It means that all those memories were never with Ray. Ray finds it confusing too, that every time he woke up, his wife's murder was either committed by someone else or Nick had taken a little blood from Ray for some experiments, containing many nanoparticles. Nick was also quite amazed by such advanced technology. Now, all Ray's suspicions lead to Dr. Hardy because right from the beginning, he was experimenting on Ray in his laboratory. Therefore, now Ray goes back to the same place to try once, where he and his wife used to live before, and now luckily Ray finds his wife alive, meaning Ray's wife was never murdered. Ray tells his wife that now we can start a new life again, but Ray's wife says, "What are you talking about? We had already decided all these things that we would separate. And now I have another family." Ray just asks how much time has passed since we met. His wife tells that it has been more than 5 years. Ray was very sad to hear all these things and left from there and was very emotional because now no matter what happens, his wife will not come to him. She is now busy in her second life. Now when the car is going on the race road here, suddenly Jimmy and Ben hit Ray's car. Ray got out of the car and understood something before Jimmy had fired a small chip on Ray, on which Ray's body started to turn completely blue, and when Ray got that chip removed, he started running away from there. Jimmy and Ray were also behind Ray, carrying all their advanced equipment with Ray. They had fired a lot of bullets in the sky to find Ray's position, and now small bullets had become drones that were roaming around all four sides to find Ray's location. Now Ray had already known that he was surrounded on all four sides. That's why he started attacking Ben and Jimmy with the police's gun. They both also turned against Ray, but due to so much fighting, they ended up on the highway, where a very big truck had climbed on top of them. Jim's artificial leg was completely broken, but whatever wound was inflicted on Ray's body was fully recovered in a few minutes. Now as Ray was going to kill everyone, Ben attacked from behind with a small knife on his body, causing Ray to immediately faint. Dr. Hardy would have immediately ordered Ray to bring him to the lab, but now Dr. Hardy knew that programmer Nick had a little sample of Ray's nanoparticles, and he could change Ray's programming with those nanoparticles. That's why Dr. Hardy had given Kathy the order to go and finish Nick. Although Kathy was refusing this matter in the beginning, Dr. Hardy suddenly blocked Kathy's artificial lungs with wireless control on his hand, causing Kathy to stop breathing, and now forced Kathy to listen to Dr. Hardy's words. Kathy immediately left to find Nick. She meets Nick like a complete stranger trying to smoke a cigarette in a very romantic style. But after smelling the smoke from Kathy's cigarette, Nick immediately faints. Kathy started fighting with all the people present there, but no one could stand in front of her fighting technique. On the other hand, we are shown Ray with Dr. Hardy, who was saying to Ray that I can control you, but Ray says you are a very bad man, you used me wrong for your benefit, but Dr. Hardy was justifying all his work in this way that no work is small or big, all those people you killed were very big level criminals. In a way, they were destined to be punished, and now Dr. Hardy decided that they would eliminate all of Ray's memories and make him completely remote controlled, meaning Ray would no longer have any control over his body. Dr. Hardy's team started supporting Nick with their wireless devices to free Ray again because Kathy also knew somewhere that Ray was being treated unfairly, and now Nick gets involved in all his programming, so he could take control of Ray's remote control. All these things were now known to Dr. Hardy due to a separate signal, so now he was also starting to block Kathy's lungs with wireless. However, Nick, with his very advanced hacking skills, had given Dr. Hardy's permission to access the denier, and now after several hours of hard work, Nick succeeded in bringing Ray back to life. Ray was now completely in control of himself, but the bad news was that Jimmy, whose artificial legs had already been broken by Dr. Hardy's created very advanced weapons, was wearing them. Jimmy's powers had increased significantly, and now Jimmy leaves to take revenge on Ray, and Jimmy and Ray come face to face all of a sudden, and now watching a fight between those two becomes a fight. Jimmy was attacking Ray with his big artificial hands, and now Ben also arrives there to help Jimmy, who is continuously trying to hit Ray, but now Ray was very angry, as if the powers of nanotechnology inside him were also increasing more and more. Ray first hit Ben very badly and threw him down, and now at the end Ray had broken both artificial hands of Jimmy, because Jimmy's whole body was destroyed. Now Dr. Hardy was trying to escape sitting in a car, when all of a sudden Jimmy's broken artificial hand arrives from behind and hits the car, so the car could not move due to the cause of the car malfunction. When Dr. Hardy stepped out, he saw Ray approaching him in great anger. Dr. Hardy shouted, "If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be alive at all. I'm the one who gave you life." Saying this, Dr. Hardy took out an advanced gun from his car and fired at Ray just like that, but Ray managed to stop that big bullet with his hand alone. On the other hand, Nick and Kathy, with the help of programming, activated all of Ray's power levels, which made Ray feel a different type of energy. He slowly approached Dr. Hardy and dropped the bullet he had held in his hand, causing a huge blast there. Obviously, Dr. Hardy's life was lost, but Ray survived. Some time later, when Ray opened his eyes, he saw Nick in front of him, whose appearance had become much richer than before. Actually, in that explosion, Ray's body had gone into hibernation mode, which had passed a whole year. In these years, Nick had used nanotechnology to open his very large private company, and since then, Nick had been treating Ray to lift him up. Ray meets Kathy outside, who is thanking him because it was due to Ray that she escaped Dr. Hardy's control, and now Ray had his whole life ahead of him, in which he could do a lot of good work. This is how our science fiction story ends here.